Give me that. It's not real. Please, that's my passport. I need to get home. The terminal went silent. Tanya Reed, 12 years old, careful braids, pink backpack, stood frozen near gate D14. In her hands lay what used to be her passport. Now it hung in two trembling pieces, edges frayed like a broken promise. The woman who tore it, Karen Whitmore, dressed in crisp beige travel slacks and a hard, entitled stare, held her chin high. Her voice carried over the boarding line like a cold wind. You people always try to cheat the system. I'm protecting this plane. Gasps rippled through the waiting crowd. A man lowered his newspaper. A mother hugged her toddler closer. Tanya's aunt, Denise Holloway, 38 and composed like a quiet storm, stepped between Tanya and the woman. Ma'am, Denise said softly, hands steady though her heartbeat was not, that passport was issued yesterday. Tanya is a U.S. citizen. You had no right to touch it. Karen scoffed. Someone had to. Security is asleep. The intercom crackled overhead. Final boarding call for Flight 219 to Denver. The smell of coffee, worn carpet, and jet fuel drifted through the air as Tanya clutched the torn booklet to her chest. One page still showed her photo, smiling bravely. The other fluttered to the floor like a wounded bird. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Others stared, wrestling with silence. Then Boots stepped forward, measured, authoritative. Captain Robert Hayes approached, navy uniform sharp, silver wings gleaming beneath fluorescent lights. He crouched to Tanya's level, voice low and respectful. Is this yours, young lady? Tanya nodded, unable to speak. Tears pooled but did not fall. He picked up the torn half from the floor, turning it gently in his hand. He rose slowly, facing Karen with a steady calm that felt like thunder waiting to break. We do not proceed, Captain Hayes said, until this is made right. Pin could have dropped. Karen's confident smile flickered. Gate agents watched. Passengers leaned closer. Tanya held the ruined passport, pulse loud in her ears, unsure whether she'd ever see the inside of that plane, or whether justice would finally take flight. Enjoying this? Tap subscribe for tomorrow's story. 3 hours earlier, the day had felt simple. Hold it tight, Tanya. Don't lose it, okay? Denise smiled as they stepped out of the rideshare van at Atlanta International Airport. The late morning sun bounced off the glass facade, turning everything into a glare of silver and white. I won't, Aunt Denise, Tanya said. Dad said it's my ticket home. Home was Denver. Snow in the mountains. Her father's chilly on Sundays. The school she'd left for a whole semester to stay with Denise in Georgia while he worked double shifts and sorted out life. Denise adjusted the strap of her work bag and studied Tanya's face. You nervous about flying again? A little, Tanya admitted. Mom used to handle all the papers. There was a tiny pause. They both felt it, an ache that still hadn't learned where to go. That's why we triple check, Denise said gently. Boarding pass ID, all good. We're early. No rush. We'll call your dad from the gate. Inside the terminal, the hum of rolling suitcases and overhead announcements wrapped around them. They moved through security slowly, shoes off, bins lined up. A TSA agent smiled at Tanya. First time with a new passport, he asked, glancing at it. Yes, sir, Tanya said, standing extra straight. You're all set, he said, handing it back. You two have a good flight. They found their way to Concourse D. Tanya pressed her forehead to the huge window, watching planes taxi on the tarmac like giant patient birds. A smaller regional jet lifted into the sky, sunlight flashing off its wings. That one's going somewhere boring, Denise joked. We get the pretty mountains. Tanya laughed. Dad's probably pacing already. You know your father, Denise said. He'll be at the gate in Denver 2 hours early with a sign. A sign? Tanya wrinkled her nose. Welcome home, Tanya. Written too big, Denise said, eyes soft. He wants you to know he's trying. They ate pretzels. Shared a soda. Denise answered a few work emails, then tucked her phone away. The gate screen glowed. Flight 219 Atlanta to Denver on time. At 3:42 p.m., the announcement came. Pre-boarding now for passengers needing extra time and families with young children for Flight 219 to Denver. That's us, Denise said. You're still my young child until you roll your eyes at me. I never roll my eyes, Tanya said, and promptly did. They joined the short pre-boarding line. Tanya held her boarding pass in one hand, her documents in the other. Her heart beat faster, but in a good way. Behind them, a clipped voice sounded. "Excuse me? Aren't there any security checks here?" Denise turned. A woman in beige slacks, polished shoes, and a rigid expression stood with her arms crossed. Karen. She looked past Denise as if she was invisible, eyes locking onto Tanya's documents. "Where did you get that?" Karen demanded. Tanya swallowed. "From the office when..." Karen stepped forward too close. "Let me see that." Denise moved between them. "Ma'am, she's fine. We cleared security. Please step back." Karen ignored her. "Kids traveling alone with fake identification is a huge problem," she said loudly, pitching her voice for the gate area to hear. "Somebody has to say something." The gate agent glanced over, unsure. Tanya's fingers tightened around her documents. She looked up at Denise, silently asking what to do. "It's okay," Denise murmured. "We know the truth." But Karen's eyes were hard, determined. She reached out again, faster this time. By the time Denise could react, Karen's hand had already closed around Tanya's papers. And in that split-second choice, everything about their quiet trip home changed. The line stalled. Feet shuffled. A passenger cleared his throat. The hum of the airport seemed to dim as Karen lifted Tanya's passport like evidence in a courtroom, pinching it between careful, suspicious fingers. Denise reached out. "Give it back, please." "You have no authority to." Karen pulled away. "Don't touch me." Her voice carried across the gate. "This could be forged. Look at the picture. How do we know she's even allowed to fly?" Tanya's throat tightened. "That is me." Karen leaned closer, studying the photo with a look that wasn't curiosity, but accusation. "I travel internationally every month. I know what a real passport feels like." "Ma'am," the gate agent called from the podium, uncertain but trying. "We already verified her documents at check-in." Karen didn't budge. "You barely glanced at them," she said, loud enough for 3 rows of seats to hear. "Somebody has to enforce the rules. If you won't, I will." She placed one thumbnail at the seam of the passport's spine. "No," Tanya whispered. Denise stepped forward, voice firm but calm. "You're scaring a child. Please hand it back." Karen's gaze flicked to her cold. "Children need protecting." Then, without hesitation, rip, yes, sharp, immediate. The passport tore clean down the middle, official pages splitting like fabric under strain. Tanya's name and picture separated, 2 halves of her identity falling apart in real time. Tanya froze, breath gone. Denise's voice collapsed into a stunned whisper. "Why would you? I told you why." Karen held the torn booklet like triumph. "Now security will have to inspect it." "You're welcome. You destroyed government property," a man in line said. Karen shrugged. "Better torn than dangerous." Denise steadied herself, fighting emotion with control. "You need to walk with me to the nearest airport authority right now." "I don't take orders from you," Karen responded. She turned toward the boarding door. "And if this flight leaves without a proper review, I'll file a formal complaint." Every passenger on this plane is at risk. Passengers exchanged glances, some angry, some startled, a few silent out of uncertainty. Tanya pressed both halves of the passport to her chest, as if holding them close could put her life back together. The gate agent stepped out from behind the counter. "Ma'am, I need you to wait here. We are calling security." Karen laughed lightly. "Call whoever you like. I've prevented a potential incident." "I did what you wouldn't." But then, the door to the jet bridge opened and Captain Hayes stepped out. His boots struck the floor with slow, steady certainty. His eyes swept the gate area, not confused, not rushed, but aware, as if he'd been listening the whole time. "Why is pre-boarding stopped?" he asked the agent quietly. The agent pointed to Karen. "There's been an interference with a miner's document." Tanya looked up at him, lips pressed together, trying so hard not to cry. For the first time, Captain Hayes noticed the torn passport in her hands. Something in his expression changed, subtle, but resolute. He approached, not toward Karen first, toward Tanya. He knelt to her level, hands open, voice gentle enough to rebuild things broken by someone else's cruelty. "May I see what's left, Tanya?" he asked. She nodded and placed the torn pieces into his palms. The captain stood slowly. His face settled into calm authority. Then he turned toward Karen, and the mood at gate D14 held its breath. Captain Hayes held the torn passport up to the fluorescent gate lights. The blue cover, now ripped and limp, cast a shadow across his uniform. Passengers leaned closer, breath shallow. No one dared fill the silence. Karen's chin lifted. I acted for everyone's safety. You should thank me. The captain did not answer her. Instead, he spoke quietly to the gate agent. Hold the boarding process. No one steps onto flight 219 until I finish. A soft gasp moved through the line. Someone closed a laptop. Someone else muttered, Good? About time. Karen crossed her arms. Is this necessary? I was ensuring protocol. You pilots are too trusting. Captain Hayes finally looked at her steadily. Ma'am, interfering with a passenger's travel documentation is a serious offense. You understand that, correct? She waved a dismissive hand. It wasn't real. Anyone could see that. Look at the lamination, the alignment. It is real, he said. No raised voice, just certainty. I've seen thousands. This is genuine, federal issued, and deliberately damaged. By you. Color drained slightly from Karen's cheeks. Denise stepped forward, voice calm but strained. We just need to get her home. Her father is waiting in Denver. Tanya stood quiet beside her, both halves of her identity in a stranger's hands. She stared at the captain's silver wings, the way they reflected every overhead light like little pieces of open sky. Captain Hayes considered the torn pages again, thumb gently brushing along the spine. It was an unconscious motion, but people noticed. A man whispered, he's thinking like this is more than paperwork. Then the captain said something unexpected. We can request emergency document assistance and verification at the gate, he told Denise. It will take time, but it's possible. Denise exhaled, hope thin but real. Karen scoffed. You're rewarding her. After a forgery, he turned to her fully. There is no forgery. There is only misconduct and a delayed flight. His tone hardened. By your hand. Heads nodded. A woman in a business jacket murmured, Thank you, Captain. Karen opened her mouth as if ready for war, but the captain raised one hand slightly, not forceful, simply final. We will review surveillance. Gate video will show what happened. If necessary, airport police will be contacted. A new tension spread, accountability entering the room like incoming weather. The captain looked down at Tanya. Can you tell me what happened, start to finish? Only if you feel ready. Tanya swallowed. The terminal felt too bright, too large, but she found her voice. She asked to see it, Tanya said softly. I didn't want her to. I tried to hold on. Then she pulled it. She ripped it. Karen's jaw clenched. Lies. No, Denise said. Truth. And for the first time, someone else stepped forward. A man in a gray ball, Cap. I recorded it, he said. He held up his phone. She grabbed it from the girl. Karen's face tightened, certainty crumbling. The captain nodded once. Please keep that video available. You may be asked to share it with airport authorities. The room shifted. People who were silent became witnesses. People who were unsure found clarity. Tanya stood taller, not confident, but no longer alone. Captain Hayes lifted the torn passport again, eyes narrowing slightly. A thought moved behind them, quiet, forming, purposeful. Something bigger than discipline. Something procedural but powerful. Something that might stop this plane altogether. A murmur moved through the terminal like a slow wave. The captain's stance had changed, not simply commanding, but calculating. As if he could already see the end of this conflict, and no one else had caught up yet. Karen noticed it too. Are you seriously considering delaying a full flight because of her? She gestured toward Tanya with an open hand, an offer of dismissal disguised as reason. Eyes narrowed across the gate. Captain Hayes remained calm. I am considering delaying a flight due to passenger interference and destruction of federal documents. Our duty is safety and dignity. Both were violated here. A hush fell. No one missed the weight of that word, dignity. Karen's voice sharpened. This is absurd. You think I'm a threat? I was preventing fraud. The captain didn't waver. Our system has procedures for fraud. None involve private citizens seizing and destroying passports. Karen's breath hitched. This is blown out of proportion. But it wasn't. And for the first time, she seemed to realize it. Denise placed a hand on Tanya's shoulder, grounding her like a lighthouse in storm winds. Tanya's small fingers curled into her aunt's sleeve, not out of weakness, but resolve. The man with the video stepped closer. I can airdrop this to any airport authority. It shows everything. His voice was even, calm, unshaken. Karen took a step back. A second witness spoke up. I saw her take it. No reason. No threat. A third. She bragged about flying monthly. How is that authority? The captain held their eyes one by one, as if gathering strength from collective truth. He turned to the gate agents. Secure all witness statements and notify airport security to meet us here. Karen flinched. No, you can't. This is ridiculous. I was helping. The captain breathed in slowly, shoulders square, command born not of anger, but conviction. I will personally file an incident report. Then quietly, clearly, and if necessary, Flight 219 will not depart today. Yes. Not dramatic, real. Raw. Grounding a flight was no small act. Karen stared, the color draining from superiority to panic. You'd punish all these people. The captain didn't blink. Not punishment. Prevention. No plane leaves under unresolved misconduct. This gate will stand as witness until we restore what was taken. Tanya felt that statement like a light turning on inside her chest. He wasn't just supporting her. He was defying injustice in front of everyone. Passengers exchanged looks, some annoyed at delay, most supportive. A woman near the window whispered, "Good man." Another said, "This is what leadership looks like." Karen looked around and found no allies. Only truth. Her voice softened, not in apology, but self-preservation. You're making a mistake. Let me board. I need to be in Denver tonight. Denise spoke gently but firmly. My niece needed that too. Karen turned, desperate. You can let me go. We don't need to escalate this. But escalations were no longer hers to choose. Airport security, alerted earlier, moved quickly down the concourse. 2 officers in dark uniforms, radios humming against their shoulders. Their approach was steady, neutral, professional. Karen swallowed. Tanya did too. The captain stepped toward them, holding the torn passport like a small flame in a windless room. The moment was poised, tipping toward justice. All it needed was one decision. One order. Security reached the gate, but Captain Hayes didn't step aside. He stood firm, passport halves in hand, eyes steady as landing lights. Officers, he said calmly, before you make contact, there is one more detail you need to know. Karen's breath caught. Denise stiffened. Tanya blinked up at the captain, sensing something unspoken waiting just beneath his voice. The taller officer nodded. We were told there's a damaged passport and passenger interference. That's correct, the captain replied. A minor's federal travel document was seized without consent, then destroyed. Witnesses confirmed this woman, he motioned to Karen, initiated the act and refused to return the document when asked. Karen's tone snapped brittle. Are we really wasting time? I simply prevented an unverified traveler from boarding. I did your job for you. The officers said nothing, stone still. And then the twist unfurled. Captain Hayes reached into his jacket pocket and drew out a slim lanyard badge. It wasn't his pilot ID. It was a second credential, gold-edged, slim, unmistakable to those who recognized authority. The nearest officer's eyebrow lifted. You're the liaison. The gate went silent. Passengers leaned forward, realization like a dropped pin in a quiet church. Yes, the captain said. In addition to my role as aircraft commander, I'm a certified Federal Aviation Administration liaison for passenger rights and safety compliance. My authority includes immediate operational decisions involving misconduct, obstruction, and document damage. Karen's face drained, white, stunned, disbelieving. You had no right to interfere with this child or her documents, he continued, voice even but unmovable. And now your actions fall under federal review. Whispers rippled. Hey, liaison. He outranks everybody at the gate. She picked the wrong pilot. Karen shook her head slowly. This is a misunderstanding. I wasn't malicious. I only wanted to protect the flight. The captain didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Protection does not come from tearing children's passports. It comes from procedure, respect, and trained oversight. He handed the passport halves to the officer. This child will not be punished for another's misconduct. She will receive document verification and temporary travel clearance. That is my directive. Tanya's breath trembled with relief. Denise's eyes glistened, not in sadness, but in fierce gratitude. Karen took a tiny step back. You can't ruin my travel over a moment of concern. The captain looked around him, not only at the officers, but the entire gate. Witnesses, citizens, people who had seen harm and stayed silent, then finally spoke. Ma'am, he said, voice composed, you didn't show concern. You showed bias. That word landed like truth long awaited. Passengers nodded. Some murmured agreement. A man in a denim jacket spoke aloud. She tore that kid's passport like she owned it. A woman added, she acted like she knew better than every authority here. Karen's composure crumbled. So what now? You'll just stop the flight over optics? No, the captain answered. Over principle. He turned to the officers. This woman interfered with federal travel documentation and targeted a minor without cause. Escort her for formal reporting. The officers moved. Karen's eyes widened, not with anger now, but disbelief, fear, and the shadow of consequence. She realized too late that she had underestimated the quiet girl with braids and the pilot who saw her. The officers reached for Karen's elbow, and in that still, electric moment, Captain Hayes gave the order that would change everything. Until her report is processed, Flight 219 is grounded. Gate D14 erupted, not loudly, but in layered waves of disbelief. Grounded? We're not flying. Is this real? Some passengers sighed. Others nodded solemnly. No one moved. The air felt charged, like static before a storm breaks. Karen shook her head, voice cracking under the weight of consequence. You can't hold an entire plane hostage for this. Captain Hayes answered gently, but with iron beneath. We are not held hostage. We are choosing integrity. Protocol demands a full report, and I will ensure it's filed. One of the officers guided Karen a step away. She resisted slightly, not violent, just stunned. You people don't understand. I was only doing what I thought was right. The captain met her gaze. Intent does not erase impact. You tore a passport in front of its holder, a child. You turned suspicion into damage. We must account for that before this flight continues. Passengers murmured agreement. Then the second layer of twist arrived like dawn after thunder. The captain tapped his badge, and the gate agent's computer chimed faintly. He spoke to her quietly, but his words carried through the terminal. As FAA liaison, I'm authorizing an immediate temporary document verification for this minor. If her citizenship is confirmed, and we will reissue emergency clearance today. Tanya blinked. Denise gasped softly. You can do that? Denise asked. He nodded. In exceptional cases. This qualifies. The footage we reviewed, he gestured to the witness holding his phone, combined with visible passport authenticity, allows expedited reissue under federal authority. A ripple of awe moved through the crowd. Karen trembled, not defiant now, but undone. So you're helping her? I'm restoring what was taken, he replied. The officer holding the passport pieces spoke into his radio. Another officer photographed the torn document on a small evidence pad. Procedure in motion, swift, organized, undeniable. And then came the deepest turn. The captain placed a hand over his own heart, then to his cap brim, and bowed slightly, a salute, not of rank, but of respect, directed at Tanya. You stood your ground. You told the truth. That matters, he said. The terminal fell, reverently still. Tanya's eyes shone, not with tears alone, but with something new, validation. Denise pressed a gentle hand to her back, her voice thick. Thank you, Captain Hayes. He straightened. Every traveler deserves dignity, especially a child returning home. Karen finally broke. Please, don't do this. I need to fly. My meeting, my family, my plans. The captain paused. For the first time, he did not look stern. He looked human. You'll still fly, he said quietly, but not before accountability. You are not banned, only delayed for report as required. If you cooperate respectfully, you may travel on a later flight today or tomorrow. But not now. Not without consequence. Karen's shoulders sagged like scaffolding giving way. There was no applause, just breath released. Justice didn't roar. It settled like gravity, undeniable and steady. Security escorted her toward the concourse desk for processing. Passengers watched, but no one jeered. No cruelty. No triumph. Just truth walking out the gate it had stormed through. Captain Hayes turned back to Tanya, one palm open. "Let's get you cleared," he said. Tanya nodded, voice barely a whisper. Okay. The situation had flipped, not by force, but by authority rooted in fairness. And the flight that once threatened to leave Tanya behind now waited because of her. With Karen escorted away, the atmosphere changed. The tension did not vanish. It softened, like a muscle unclenching after hours held tight. People adjusted bags, checked watches, yet few looked frustrated anymore. They had witnessed something uncommon, a line drawn, a child offended, authority used correctly. At a side desk, airport staff gathered around Tanya and Denise. The torn passport was scanned, logged, photographed. The man with the video, David Renshaw, as he introduced himself, forwarded his recording directly to the officers. His hands were steady, voice clear. "I've got the clip saved in full resolution," he said. "Just tell me who to send it to." Denise thanked him, her voice thick. "You didn't have to get involved." David shook his head. "Yes, ma'am, I did." Sometimes it's our turn to speak up. Other witnesses stepped forward, offering statements. A mother in a denim jacket described the moment Karen snatched the passport. An older businessman confirmed that TSA had cleared Tanya earlier. Their words were patient, factual. One after another, truth wove itself into record. Tanya sat quietly during processing, feet swinging above the carpet, watching the careful hands reassemble her torn identity piece by piece. A technician laminated an emergency travel page. Another verified her ID through a federal system. Green lights blinked on a monitor. Approved. The gate agent printed a temporary clearance card, sealed, stamped, official. She placed it in Tanya's palm with a gentle smile. "There you go, sweetheart. You're clear to fly." Relief came like warm air after months of cold. Tanya exhaled. Denise wrapped an arm around her, steady but shaking. Captain Hayes approached. His presence still carried weight, but now it felt like a shield instead of a storm. "We'll begin reboarding shortly," he announced at the gate. "Thank you for your patience." "And thank you," he added, looking toward Tanya, "for your courage." Tanya swallowed. "I didn't feel brave." "That," he said softly, "is what bravery feels like." Someone in the waiting area began to clap. Quiet, respectful, not triumphant. A few joined. Not many. Just enough to fill the space with humanity rather than noise. The captain did not bask in it. He only gave a small nod, then turned to the gate door. Denise approached him privately. "Captain Hayes," she said, "what you did today, we won't forget it." He looked back at Tanya, then at the people who had watched, unsure at first, then choosing to stand. "No one should travel the world feeling smaller than they are," he said, "especially a child returning home." Announcement chimes sounded, reboarding now for Flight 219 to Denver. Passengers rose with measured calm. Tanya held the new clearance against her chest, careful and grateful. Denise guided her toward the jet bridge, step by step. Before they boarded, Tanya paused. She turned to look at the empty space Karen had stood in. Not with hate, not with victory, with understanding of something deeper. Cruelty breaks. Dignity holds. She stepped onto the plane, not as someone questioned, but as someone seen. The jet bridge felt different on the way in, not just a tunnel of metal and carpet, but a path to something mended. Tanya walked slowly beside Denise. Each footstep sounded softer than the last. Her boarding card was tucked safely into her backpack, a new symbol where a torn passport once trembled. Inside the cabin, overhead lights glowed warm amber. Passengers filed down the aisle, quiet but aware. Some smiled at Tanya as she passed, small gestures, kind ones, the sort people offer when they've witnessed harm and chosen to stand closer to light. A row near the front stood empty. Captain Hayes emerged from the cockpit, gesturing gently. "Seat 4A," he said. "A little more space for your niece." Denise blinked. Captain, you don't have to. It's already done, he replied. No special treatment. Just a child who's been through enough today. Tanya settled into the window seat. The view stretched wide, wing gleaming beneath late afternoon sun, sky turning pale gold like a promise held open. Denise sat beside her, adjusting her seatbelt, exhaling years of worry in one long breath. As boarding completed, the captain made an announcement. His voice flowed through the speakers, steady, respectful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Today we pause not for delay, but for dignity. We now carry every passenger forward, with clarity, with care, and with respect for one another. No names, no spectacle, just truth. The plane pushed back from the gate. Engines hummed to life like distant thunder. Tanya pressed her forehead to the window, watching the ground peel away beneath them, the spot where justice had stood its ground. During ascent, clouds drifted by like slow white ships. Denise placed her hand over Tanya's. You were strong, she whispered. Tanya nodded. I was scared. That's what makes it strength, Denise said. At cruising altitude, the captain stepped into the aisle once more, rare, informal, human. He carried something in one hand, a thin envelope stamped with the airline crest. For you, he said. Tanya opened it. Inside was a letter, temporary official clearance documentation, and a note handwritten below. Return home with pride. Let no one tear your name again. Captain Hayes. Tanya's chin trembled. She folded the note carefully, placing it next to her sleeve as though it were fragile and precious. Denise spoke through a quiet breath. Captain, thank you. He nodded. I only did what should always be done. The rest belongs to her. He returned to the cockpit. The cabin settled. The seatbelt sign dimmed. A gentle murmur of conversation resumed, like life flowing back into a room after grief has passed through. Tanya looked out again. The sky no longer felt far. It felt reachable. Mountains rose in the distance as they descended toward Denver, blue, white-tipped, familiar. Home. When the wheels touched down, Tanya felt it deep, not just the landing, but arrival. Not just travel, but return. And as they waited to deplane, one truth settled quietly inside her. Sometimes the world tears. Sometimes strangers sew it back. Today she had seen both. 3 months later, Denver, Colorado. Snow drifted past the window in slow spirals, catching sunlight like tiny mirrors. Tanya sat at the kitchen table, a bowl of warm oatmeal steaming beside her, while her father stirred hot cocoa on the stove. Their home felt fuller now. Pictures on the wall, coats by the door, laughter that returned like spring after a long winter. On the table beside her lay a new passport, fresh, crisp, unmarred. Its cover was deep blue, uncreased, dignified. A small detail near the issuing seal marked it as reprinted following a federal incident review. Not many people had ever seen one like it. Tanya traced the gold lettering with her finger, slow and gentle, remembering the day it tore and the way strangers came together to rebuild what had been broken. Her father placed a mug of cocoa beside her. Excited for your next trip? Tanya smiled. Yeah, the school museum visit isn't far, but I feel ready for bigger places again. He took a seat across from her. The lines beneath his eyes were softer lately, no longer weighted by constant worry. You came home stronger, he said quietly. Tanya nodded, eyes on the passport. I think I did. He hesitated, then pulled a small envelope from his jacket pocket. This came for you today. Airport postmark. Tanya opened it carefully. Inside was a single card, clean white, typed neatly. Just flew over the Rockies and thought of someone brave. Keep flying, Tanya. Arhes. Her breath caught. A small smile spread, steady and warm, like sunlight through cold air. She placed the card beside her passport, the second moment of dignity recognized, 3 months apart. Her father washed her face. He wrote you. She nodded. Just a note. But it means something. He squeezed her hand. You remind the world what's worth protecting. Later that afternoon, they bundled into coats and walked to the nearby park, snow crunching under boots. Children built lopsided snowmen. A dog chased a red ball across frost. The sky was pale as winter's silk. Tanya stopped near the frozen pond, hands tucked into her sleeves. The world felt wide again, not frightening, but possible. She pictured the airport, The torn passport, the crowd, the captain's salute. A moment shaped by harm, then corrected by courage, hers, Denise's, the witnesses, and a pilot who refused to look away. In her pocket, she carried the card and a folded photocopy of the torn passport page, the signature object appearing once more, not as a wound but as memory transformed. A reminder. Some things break. Some are rebuilt stronger. Snowflakes settled on her hair. Tanya whispered into the cold air, as if sending it beyond mountains and sky. I'm still flying. She turned back toward her father, toward home, toward everything ahead. Andy, thanks for watching.